The message that flashed across every screen on Earth sent shockwaves through human civilization. Human males, we are the Tzenkethi, and we need your help to save our species. Please take us as your wives. John Murphy, a 35-year-old former military officer turned diplomat, stared at his television in disbelief. The ticker at the bottom of the screen confirmed what his eyes refused to accept. A massive alien spacecraft had appeared in Earth's orbit, broadcasting this plea worldwide. As emergency sirens blared outside his apartment, John's phone buzzed. A text from his superior. Report to HQ immediately. You're leading our response team. Hours later, John found himself face-to-face with Hydrus, the Tzenkethi ambassador. She was a petite, blue-skinned humanoid with large, mesmerizing eyes and delicate features. Despite her alien appearance, there was something undeniably alluring about her. Mr. Murphy, Hydrus began, her voice melodious yet tinged with urgency, our males have become infertile. Without human genetic material, the Tzenkethi face extinction. John's military training kicked in, masking his shock. And your solution is a mass interspecies marriage program? Hydrus nodded solemnly. It's our only hope for survival. John's mind raced. Was this a genuine plea for help, or an elaborate invasion plot? He couldn't shake his skepticism. We'll need proof of your claims, he stated firmly, and I insist on thorough medical examinations of both human and Tzenkethi volunteers before any marriages occur. Agreed, Hydrus replied, relief evident in her voice. But please, time is running out for my people. As John left the meeting, he felt the weight of humanity's future on his shoulders. Outside, the world was in chaos. Governments debated the Tzenkethi proposal, with some seeing it as an opportunity for a galactic alliance, while others feared alien infiltration. Religious groups took to the streets, protesting the idea of human-alien unions. Over the next few days, John engaged in rigorous negotiations with Hydrus. He demanded full disclosure of Tzenkethi biology, culture, and intentions. The revelations were staggering. Tzenkethi females could bear human hybrid children, but the process was fraught with danger and required careful medical monitoring. John immediately ordered a team of human scientists to verify these claims. As he worked tirelessly to uncover the truth, he found himself increasingly drawn to Hydrus. Her intelligence, compassion, and determination were undeniable, yet he struggled to maintain professional boundaries while representing humanity's interests. The situation grew more tense by the hour. Some nations threatened to shoot down the Tzenkethi ship, while others prepared to welcome the aliens with open arms. John knew he was racing against time to prevent a global conflict and determine if the Tzenkethi offer was genuine or a clever ruse to conquer Earth through infiltration and reproduction. As he pored over reports and negotiated terms, one question burned in John's mind. Could humanity trust these alien brides, or were they walking into a trap that could spell the end of human civilization as they knew it? John Murphy's phone buzzed incessantly as he left the meeting with Hydrus. The world was in chaos, and he knew he had to act fast. With a deep breath, he dialed Dr. Emily Adams, a renowned xenobiologist he'd worked with on previous classified projects. Emily, I need you in Washington, ASAP. We've got a situation that requires your expertise. Within 48 hours, John had assembled a crack team of scientists, led by Dr. Adams, to initiate a series of controlled experiments. They set up a secure facility on the outskirts of D.C., equipped with state-of-the-art laboratories and medical equipment. As volunteers began to arrive, both human males and Tzenkethi females, John oversaw the intake process. Each participant underwent rigorous medical examinations and psychological evaluations. Dr. Adams approached John, her eyes alight with scientific curiosity. The preliminary genetic analyses are fascinating, John. The Tzenkethi DNA structure is remarkably compatible with ours, despite its alien origin. John nodded, his brow furrowed. That's promising, but we need to be absolutely certain before we proceed further. What about the physiological assessments? We're still running tests, but so far no red flags. The Tzenkethi respiratory and circulatory systems are analogous to ours, though there are some intriguing differences in their metabolic processes. As days turned into weeks, John found himself shuttling between the research facility and emergency UN sessions. The world watched and waited, divided between hope and fear. Standing before the General Assembly, John took a deep breath. Distinguished representatives, I come before you today with preliminary findings that could shape the future of our species and that of the Tsenkethi. He presented the data collected so far, emphasizing both the potential benefits and the risks involved. We propose a phased integration program, beginning with a small group of carefully screened volunteers. This will allow us to monitor the process closely and address any unforeseen issues that may arise. The chamber erupted in a cacophony of voices, some supportive, others vehemently opposed. John stood firm, answering questions and addressing concerns with the calm assurance that had made him an effective diplomat. Back at the facility, Dr. Adams burst into John's office, her face flushed with excitement. We did it, John! We've successfully created viable human Tsenkethi embryos in vitro. John's heart raced. This was the breakthrough they'd been waiting for. That's incredible, Emily. But what about the risks during gestation? Dr. Adams' expression sobered. You're right to ask. The process is indeed complex and potentially dangerous for Tsenkethi females. We'll need to develop comprehensive medical protocols to ensure safe pregnancies. As news of the successful embryo creation leaked, John watched public opinion shift. Protests dwindled, replaced by a growing sense of curiosity and even excitement about the possibilities of interspecies relationships. However, a vocal minority grew more aggressive in their opposition. John received daily reports of Earth First rallies and inflammatory speeches denouncing the alien invasion. Amidst the chaos, John made a decision that would change his life forever. He volunteered for the first wave of human Tsenkethi partnerships. The psychological evaluations were grueling, delving into every aspect of his psyche. Cultural training followed, immersing him in Tsenkethi customs, language, and social norms. During this process, John found himself spending more time with Hydrus. They worked late into the night, designing programs to ease the transition for both species. What about food? Hydrus asked one evening, her large eyes reflecting the soft glow of the computer screen. Human cuisine is so different from ours. John smiled, remembering his first attempt at a Tsenkethi delicacy. We'll need to create comprehensive dietary guidelines. Maybe we can organize cooking classes for the couples? As they worked side by side, John couldn't help but notice the grace of Hydrus's movements, the melodious lilt of her voice. He found himself looking forward to their meetings, eager to hear her insights and share his own ideas. One day, as they were reviewing the latest draft of their cultural exchange program, John's old military colleague, Captain Marcus Steele, knocked on the door. John, got a minute? Steele's expression was grim. In the hallway, Steele spoke in low tones. I've been assigned to lead security for the integration program. John, I know you believe in this, but we need to stay vigilant. We still don't know everything about the Tsenkethi or their true intentions. John nodded, appreciating his friend's caution. I understand, Marcus. That's why we're taking it slow, starting small. But I truly believe the potential benefits outweigh the risks. As they prepared for the first official human Tsenkethi unions, tension in the air was palpable. John worked tirelessly, coordinating with Dr. Adams on medical protocols, fine-tuning the cultural exchange program with Hydrus, and briefing Captain Steele on security measures. The night before the ceremony, John stood alone on the balcony of his apartment, gazing up at the stars. The Tsenkethi ship hung in the sky, a constant reminder of how much had changed in such a short time. His phone buzzed, a message from Hydrus. Are you ready for tomorrow? John typed back, his fingers hesitating for just a moment. As ready as I'll ever be. See you in the morning. As he set the phone down, John realized that despite the enormous responsibility on his shoulders, despite the risks and unknowns, he felt a sense of anticipation. Tomorrow would mark the beginning of a new chapter, not just for him, but for all of humanity. The morning of the first human Tsenkethi unions dawned with an electric atmosphere. John Murphy awoke early, his mind racing with the enormity of what lay ahead. As he donned his formal attire, A commotion outside his window caught his attention. A sea of protesters had gathered, their angry chants filling the air. "Earth for humans!" they shouted, waving signs with xenophobic slogans. John's eyes sharp as he watched the scene unfold. Suddenly, his phone buzzed. It was Captain Marcus Steele. "John, we've got a situation. The Earth First group has breached the outer perimeter of the facility. My team is moving to intercept, but you need to get to the safe room immediately." John's military training kicked in. He grabbed his emergency kit and headed for the door, his heart pounding. As he moved through the corridors, alarms blared, and staff members rushed past in a panic. He found Hydrus in the command center, her blue skin pulsing with rapid color changes that John now recognized as a sign of distress. "John, what's happening?" she asked, her large eyes wide with concern. Before he could answer, the building shook with a violent explosion. The extremists had detonated a device at the main entrance. Captain Steele's voice crackled over the intercom. "All personnel, this is not a drill. We are under attack. Proceed to designated safe areas immediately." John grabbed Hydrus's hand. "Come on, we need to move." They raced through the facility, guiding other human Senkethi couples to safety. The sound of gunfire echoed through the halls as Steele's security team engaged the attackers. Hours passed in tense silence as they huddled in the reinforced safe room. John held Hydrus close, feeling the rapid beat of her alien heart against his chest. Finally, Steele's voice came through the speakers. "All clear. The threat has been neutralized." As they emerged from the safe room, John surveyed the damage. The facility's entrance was in ruins, and several staff members had been injured. But thanks to Steele's swift action, no lives had been lost. In the aftermath of the attack, John knew decisive action was necessary. He called an emergency meeting with key personnel. "We can't let fear dictate our actions," John declared, his voice firm. "We're accelerating the timeline for the first marriages. We'll show the world that we won't be intimidated." Dr. Emily Adams nodded in agreement. "I've finalized the medical protocols for ensuring safe human Senkethi pregnancies. We're ready on the scientific front." The next few days passed in a whirlwind of activity. John worked tirelessly, coordinating enhanced security measures with Captain Steele, while Dr. Adams presented her findings to a global panel of scientists. As the scientific community validated Dr. Adams's research, public opinion began to shift. The attack had backfired, generating sympathy for the Senkethi and their human partners. John stood before a bank of cameras, his face resolute. "Today, I'm announcing my intention to marry Hydrus, the Senkethi ambassador, as part of the first wave of human Senkethi unions." The press conference erupted into chaos. Questions flew from all directions, but John remained steady. "This decision wasn't made lightly," he continued, "but I believe in this program and its potential to benefit both our species. I'm willing to lead by example." As news of John's announcement spread, reactions varied wildly. Many praised his commitment, while others accused him of having been manipulated by the aliens. The United Nations convened an emergency session to ratify the human Senkethi marriage agreement. John watched the proceedings with suspenseful pause as nations cast their votes. "The motion passes," the Secretary General announced. "The human Senkethi union program is officially sanctioned." John allowed himself a moment of relief, but it was short-lived. A new challenge emerged in the form of Sarah Jennings, a human rights activist who filed a lawsuit claiming the program discriminated against human women. John huddled with his legal team, working late into the night to draft an amendment to the program. They expanded it to include provisions for human women to participate in scientific and cultural exchange programs with the Senkethi. As the day of the first marriages approached, John and Hydrus, along with 20 other couples, began an intensive 2-week cultural integration program. John found himself fascinated by the complex system of nonverbal communication through color changes in Senkethi skin. "Your dorsal ridge just turned a deep indigo," John remarked one evening as they studied together. "What does that mean?" Hydrus smiled, her skin rippling with shades of violet. "It means I'm happy, John. Happy to be here with you." Finally, the day of the ceremony arrived. The newly constructed Human Senkethi Unity Center bustled with activity as final preparations were made. Outside, protesters and supporters alike gathered, held at bay by Captain Steele's security team. John stood before a mirror, adjusting his formal attire. His hands trembled slightly as he fastened the last button. This was it, the moment that would change everything. As he made his way to the main hall, John's mind raced with thoughts of the future. What would this mean for humanity? For the Tzenkethi? For him and Hydrus? The ceremony began. One by one, the couples took their places. John's heart swelled as he saw Hydrus, resplendent in a gown that shimmered with colors that seemed to dance across the fabric. Just as John prepared to take his position, Dr. Adams burst into the room, her face flushed with urgency. "John, I've discovered something critical about Tzenkethi biology. We need to talk immediately." John froze, acutely aware of the hundreds of eyes upon him. The future of two species hung in the balance. Should he proceed with the ceremony or halt the proceedings to address this new information? Time seemed to stand still as John weighed his options, the weight of his decision pressing down upon him like a physical force. John's heart raced as he processed Dr. Adams's urgent words. The weight of his decision pressed down upon him, but the expectant faces of the assembled dignitaries, media, and most importantly, Hydrus, compelled him forward. With a barely perceptible nod to Dr. Adams, he made his choice. "We'll discuss this later," he whispered, then turned to face Hydrus. The ceremony proceeded, a blend of human and Tzenkethi traditions. John's voice remained steady as he recited his vows, his eyes locked with Hydrus's. As they embraced, sealing their union, a ripple of applause spread through the hall. One by one, the other 20 couples followed suit. The air buzzed with a mixture of excitement and trepidation as history unfolded before their eyes. As the newlyweds made their way down the aisle, John caught Captain Steele's eye and gave a subtle signal. Steele understood immediately, discreetly organizing security for an impromptu meeting. Minutes later, John found himself in a secluded room with Dr. Adams, Hydrus, Captain Steele, and key members of the integration team. The atmosphere was tense as all eyes turned to Dr. Adams. "I've discovered something crucial about Tzenkethi biology," she began, her voice low but urgent. "After mating, Tzenkethi females undergo a significant change. They develop a powerful empathic bond with their partners." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. John felt a mix of emotions wash over him: surprise, concern, and a strange sense of anticipation. Dr. Adams continued, "This bond allows them to influence their mate's emotions and, to a lesser extent, their thoughts." The human officials erupted in a flurry of whispers. John could see the fear and suspicion in their eyes. "Influence thoughts? Are you saying they can control our minds?" one official demanded. Hydra stepped forward, her skin rippling with shades of blue and green. "It's not control," she explained, her voice calm but tinged with concern. "The bond is a natural part of our reproduction. It ensures emotional stability during pregnancy and child-rearing." John found himself nodding, a strange sense of understanding washing over him. He realized he was already experiencing the early stages of this bond. "I can vouch for its benign nature," he said, drawing surprised looks from the humans in the room. "I'm feeling it now. It's intimate, but not controlling." Captain Steele frowned. "Why wasn't this disclosed earlier?" Hydrus's skin flushed a deep indigo. "It's considered a private, intimate aspect of our biology, not a weapon or tool for control. I should have realized its significance to humans. I apologize for the oversight." John took a deep breath, feeling the weight of his responsibility. "We need full transparency moving forward. We'll temporarily halt further marriages until we can fully understand and communicate the implications of this bond." As the meeting adjourned, John knew the real challenges were just beginning. He and Hydrus stepped out to face the media, their hands intertwined. The flashes of cameras were blinding, questions flying from all directions. "Ambassador Murphy, is it true that Tzenkethi can control human minds?" "Hydrus, did you intentionally hide this information from Earth's governments?" John raised a hand, calling for silence. "We've discovered new information about Tzenkethi biology that requires further study. We're committed to full transparency and will be releasing a detailed statement shortly. In the meantime, we're temporarily pausing new marriages to ensure all participants are fully informed. As they made their way through the crowd, John felt a wave of concern emanating from Hydrus. He squeezed her hand, sending back a pulse of reassurance through their nascent bond. Over the next few days, news of the empathic bond spread like wildfire. Sarah Jennings and her supporters seized upon the information, holding rallies denouncing the alien mind control plot. Counter-protests sprang up, with some human men expressing fascination with the idea of a deep emotional connection. John and Hydrus found themselves at the center of a media storm. They agreed to participate in a series of interviews and demonstrations, hoping to demystify the bond. During one particularly tense interview, the host pressed Hydrus on the nature of the bond. "Can you make Ambassador Murphy do whatever you want?" Hydrus's skin rippled with shades of frustration. "That's not how it works. May I demonstrate?" With the host's wary agreement, Hydrus turned to John. Her skin shifted to a soft, pulsating blue. John felt a wave of calm wash over him, but his thoughts remained his own. "I feel relaxed," John explained to the host, "but I'm still me. My thoughts, my decisions, they're all my own." As the days passed, John worked closely with Dr. Adams to study the bond. They discovered its nuances, how it enhanced mutual understanding and emotional intimacy without allowing for direct control. However, they also found that some humans struggled with the intensity of the connection. Meanwhile, the first group of human Tzenkethi couples began the process of starting families. Dr. Adams and her team set up a specialized medical unit to monitor the pregnancies, ensuring the health of both Tzenkethi mothers and their hybrid children. As Hydrus's own pregnancy progressed, John found himself experiencing increasingly vivid emotional connections. One night, he awoke with a start, his mind filled with strange, alien imagery. "Hydrus," he whispered, gently waking his wife. I think I just felt our child's thoughts." Hydrus's eyes widened, her skin pulsing with excitement and wonder. "That's extraordinary, John. In Tzenkethi culture, such connections are rare and considered a blessing." As they lay there, marveling at this new development, John's communicator buzzed. It was Captain Steele, his voice tense. "John, we've got a situation. Intelligence reports suggest some nations are trying to reverse engineer Tzenkethi technology. We need to act fast to prevent an arms race." John sighed, the weight of his responsibilities settling back onto his shoulders. As he prepared to face this new challenge, he felt a gentle pulse of support through his bond with Hydrus. Whatever lay ahead, they would face it together. Together. John took a deep breath, steeling himself for the challenges ahead. Over the next few months, John found himself caught in a whirlwind of diplomatic negotiations, public appearances, and intimate moments with Hydrus as her pregnancy progressed. The world watched with breathless expectation as the first wave of human Tzenkethi hybrid births began. Dr. Emily Adams stood in the delivery room, her face a mixture of concentration and awe as she guided a Tzenkethi mother through the final stages of labor. The room was filled with the hum of medical equipment and the anxious energy of the human father. "One more push," Dr. Adams encouraged, her voice steady despite the historical significance of the moment. With a final effort, the Tzenkethi mother brought her child into the world. The room fell silent for a heartbeat before the infant's cry pierced the air. "It's a boy," Dr. Adams announced, her eyes wide as she examined the newborn. "He's perfect." The child, named Orion, was a striking blend of both species. His skin was a pale blue, his eyes unmistakably human, while his head bore a unique combination of fine hair and delicate tentacle-like structures. As the news of Orion's birth spread across the globe, John and Hydrus watched the broadcast from their private quarters. Hydrus's skin rippled with shades of excitement and anticipation. "That will be us soon," John said softly, placing a hand on Hydrus's swollen abdomen. Hydrus nodded, her skin pulsing with a mix of joy and nervousness. "I can feel our child's impatience," she said, her voice tinged with wonder. Their moment of peace was interrupted by a call from Dr. Adams. "John, Hydrus, I need to see you immediately," she said, her tone serious. There's something you need to know about your baby." Hours later, they sat in Dr. Adams's office, listening as she explained her findings. "The fetal brain activity is off the charts," she said, pointing to a series of complex scans. "I've never seen anything like it, even compared to other hybrid pregnancies." John felt a surge of concern through his bond with Hydrus. "Is the baby in danger?" he asked, his voice tight. Dr. Adams shook her head. "Not as far as we can tell, but we need to monitor the situation closely. I'm recommending more frequent checkups for the remainder of the pregnancy." As they left the medical center, John's communicator buzzed. It was Captain Steele, his voice tense. "John, we've got a situation. There's a black market emerging for Synkethi tech. Some people are trying to reverse engineer the empathic bonding process." John's mind raced, processing the implications. "Set up a secure meeting. We need to coordinate with international law enforcement immediately." The following weeks were a blur of activity. John divided his time between working with Captain Steele to crack down on the illegal tech trade, overseeing the creation of the Interspecies Family Resource Center, and attending Hydrus's increasingly frequent medical checkups. Meanwhile, the first group of hybrid infants, including Orion, began to display remarkable growth in cognitive development. By 3 months, they were achieving milestones typical of human 1-year-olds. During a press conference about the Resource Center, John addressed the public's growing concerns. "We're committed to providing all the support and resources these families need," he said, his voice firm. "This center will serve as a hub for medical care, education, and research to ensure the best possible future for our children." As he spoke, John felt a sudden intense wave of emotion wash over him. He stumbled slightly, gripping the podium for support. "John?" Hydrus's voice came through their bond, tinged with urgency. "It's time." John's eyes widened as he realized what was happening. He quickly concluded the press conference and rushed to the medical center, where he found Hydrus already in the early stages of labor. The next 18 hours were the most intense of John's life. As Hydrus's labor progressed, their empathic bond intensified to unprecedented levels. John found himself experiencing sympathetic labor pains, his body reacting in sync with Hydrus's contractions. Dr. Adams and her team worked tirelessly, monitoring both Hydrus and John as the unusual situation unfolded. "I've never seen anything like this," Dr. Adams muttered, her brow furrowed in concentration. "The empathic link is affecting John's physiology in ways we never anticipated." Finally, after a grueling labor, Hydrus gave birth to not one, but 2 healthy infants, a boy and a girl. The room filled with a mix of exhausted sighs and joyful exclamations. As Dr. Adams placed the twins in their arms, John and Hydrus shared a moment of pure, unadulterated joy. Their son, Alexander, had Hydrus's shimmering skin and John's dark hair, while their daughter, Luna, possessed John's eyes and a delicate pattern of bioluminescent spots across her skin. However, the moment of bliss was short-lived. Within hours, it became clear that Alexander and Luna were unlike any of the hybrid children born before them. They seemed to communicate without words, their tiny hands reaching for each other, even when separated. More surprisingly, John and Hydrus found they could sense their children's thoughts and emotions with startling clarity. Dr. Adams, upon examining the twins, looked both excited and concerned. "Their neural activity is off the charts," she explained, showing John and Hydrus a series of brain scans. "They appear to be telepathic, not just with each other, but potentially with you as well. And there's more. They seem to be influencing the emotions of everyone around them." As news of the twins' extraordinary abilities spread, the medical center became a hive of activity. Scientists, government officials, and media representatives all clamored for information and access. John stood by the window of their private room, cradling Luna while Hydrus nursed Alexander. He could feel the weight of the world's attention bearing down on them, the hopes and fears of 2 species resting on the tiny shoulders of their newborn children. "What do we do now?" he asked softly, looking at Hydrus. Hydrus's skin rippled with a complex pattern of colors, reflecting her mix of love, worry, and willpower. "We protect them," she said firmly, "and we help them understand their gifts." As they gazed at their children, John and Hydrus knew that their greatest challenge and their greatest adventure was just beginning. The future of human-Sen-Kethi relations, and perhaps the future of both species, would be shaped by the extraordinary beings they had brought into the world. John gazed at his newborn children, marveling at their unique features and the palpable connection he felt with them. The weight of responsibility settled on his shoulders as he realized the profound impact these extraordinary beings would have on the future of both species. In the days that followed, the Interspecies Family Resource Center transformed into a bustling hub of activity. Dr. Emily Adams, her face etched with a mixture of excitement and drive, expanded her research team to include experts from various fields. The center's corridors echoed with the rapid-fire exchange of ideas as scientists pored over data and discussed their findings. The cognitive development of Alexander and Luna is simply astonishing, Dr. Adams explained to John and Hydrus during one of their daily briefings. She gestured to a holographic display showing intricate neural patterns. Their mental capabilities are advancing at a rate we've never seen before, even compared to other hybrid children. Hydrus's skin rippled with a complex pattern of colors, reflecting her mix of pride and concern. "What does this mean for their future?" she asked, her voice tinged with worry. Dr. Adams' expression softened. "It means we need to be prepared for challenges we can't yet anticipate. Their development is unprecedented, and we're learning new things every day." As word of Alexander and Luna's extraordinary abilities spread, John found himself working closely with Captain Marcus Steele to implement rigorous security measures. The medical center's perimeter buzzed with activity as security personnel patrolled and sophisticated surveillance systems were installed. "We've had to turn away 3 different groups trying to gain unauthorized access," Captain Steele reported, his voice low and serious. "Everyone wants a piece of your children, John. We need to stay vigilant." John nodded, feeling the weight of his responsibilities more acutely than ever. He and Hydrus worked tirelessly to balance the need for their children's safety with the importance of the ongoing research. As Alexander and Luna grew at an astonishing rate, their abilities became more pronounced. John watched in awe as his 3-month-old children communicated complex ideas to each other without uttering a sound. Their tiny faces would scrunch in concentration, and suddenly they would both reach for the same toy or turn to look at the same object. One afternoon, as John sat with the twins in the center's secure play area, he felt a sudden wave of calm wash over him. He looked up to see Luna staring at him intently, her eyes wise beyond her years. In that moment, he understood that his daughter had deliberately influenced his emotions. "Hydrus," he called softly, his voice filled with wonder. "I think Luna just calmed me down. On purpose." Hydrus moved closer, her skin pulsing with a mix of amazement and concern. "They're growing so fast, John. What if they develop abilities we can't control?" Before John could respond, Dr. Adams entered the room, her tablet clutched tightly in her hand. "John, Hydrus, we've made a breakthrough," she announced, her eyes bright with excitement. "We've identified the source of the twins' abilities. It appears that the combination of human and Sen-Kethi DNA has activated dormant genes present in both species. This is what's responsible for their enhanced cognitive and empathic capabilities." The implications of this discovery sent ripples through the scientific community and beyond. As news spread, the global reaction was swift and divided. John found himself at the center of a media storm, fielding questions from reporters and addressing concerns from world leaders. During a press conference, a journalist asked pointedly, "Ambassador Murphy, how can we be sure these children won't pose a threat to humanity as they grow older and their abilities become stronger?" John took a deep breath, choosing his words carefully. "Alexander and Luna are children. Extraordinary children, yes, but children nonetheless. Our focus is on understanding their abilities and ensuring they grow up with a strong moral foundation. They represent the best of both our species, and we believe they will be a force for good in the universe." As the twins continued to develop, John and Hydrus decided it was time to introduce them to their Sen-Kethi heritage. With careful planning and extensive security measures in place, they arranged a visit to the Sen-Kethi spacecraft still orbiting Earth. The moment they stepped aboard, Alexander and Luna's eyes widened with fascination. To John's amazement, The twins approached a nearby console and, without any instruction, began interfacing with the Tsenkethi technology. Their tiny hands moved across the alien surfaces with surprising dexterity, and the ship's systems responded to their touch. A Tsenkethi crew member observed this with astonishment. "They possess an innate understanding of our technology," he remarked, his skin flashing with shades of wonder. "This is unprecedented." As they left the spacecraft, John noticed a group of human military officials watching intently. Among them was General William Hartman, whose keen gaze followed the twins as they were ushered back to their transport. Later that evening, as John and Hydrus put the twins to bed, they felt a mixture of pride and unease. Their children were growing into beings of remarkable potential, but with that potential came challenges they were only beginning to understand. "John," Hydrus said softly, her skin rippling with concern, "I fear our children's abilities will make them targets. How can we protect them and still allow them to grow?" Before John could answer, his comm unit buzzed. It was General Hartman requesting an urgent meeting. As John read the message, he felt a sense of foreboding. He knew that the general's interest in the twins could only mean one thing. The military saw strategic potential in their abilities. As he prepared to meet with General Hartman, John realized that they were standing at a crossroads. The decisions they made now would not only shape the futures of Alexander and Luna, but potentially the course of human-Tsenkethi relations and the evolution of both species. The weight of this responsibility settled heavily on his shoulders as he stepped out into the night, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. As John prepared to meet with General Hartman, he couldn't shake the feeling that the world was changing faster than anyone could have anticipated. The rapid development of Alexander and Luna, combined with the growing number of hybrid children displaying extraordinary abilities, had set in motion a chain of events that would reshape the future of both humanity and the Tsenkethi. Within days of his meeting with General Hartman, John found himself at the center of a global diplomatic whirlwind. Earth's governments and the Tsenkethi leadership had called for an emergency summit to address the rapidly evolving situation surrounding the hybrid children. As the father of the most advanced hybrids and a key diplomat, John was thrust into a central role in the negotiations. The summit convened in a heavily secured conference center in Geneva. John stood at the podium, facing a sea of human and Tsenkethi faces, all filled with a mixture of anticipation and apprehension. He took a deep breath, his voice steady as he addressed the assembly. "We stand at a crossroads," John began. "The hybrid children represent not just the union of our two species, but a new frontier of human and Tsenkethi potential. It is our responsibility to ensure their safety, education, and integration into our societies." As John spoke, he could feel the weight of countless eyes upon him. Among the audience, he spotted General Hartman, his face impassive but his gaze intense. Beside him sat Dr. Emily Adams, her tablet clutched tightly as she prepared to present her latest findings. The summit's first days were a flurry of presentations, debates, and negotiations. Dr. Adams and her team took center stage, revealing their groundbreaking discoveries about the hybrid children's abilities. "Our research has shown that these children possess not only enhanced cognitive and empathic capabilities," Dr. Adams explained, her voice filled with nearly unleashed excitement, "but also remarkable physical attributes. We've observed increased strength, speed, and stamina far beyond what we initially anticipated." A murmur rippled through the audience. John could see the mix of awe and concern on the faces of both human and Tsenkethi officials. The implications of these findings were staggering, raising new questions about the long-term effects of human-Tsenkethi integration. As the summit progressed, John found himself constantly torn between his roles as a diplomat and a father. He and Hydrus had brought Alexander and Luna to Geneva, keeping them in a secure area of the conference center under the watchful eye of Captain Steele's security team. One afternoon, during a break in the proceedings, John received an urgent message from Captain Steele. "You need to see this," the message read. John hurried to the secure area, his heart racing. He found Alexander and Luna, now resembling 10-year-olds despite being only a few months old, surrounded by a group of astonished Tsenkethi scientists. The twins were effortlessly operating a complex Tsenkethi computer system, their small hands dancing over the alien interface with practiced ease. They accessed our ship's database, one of the Tsinkethi explained, his skin flickering with shades of amazement. And not only that, they've already suggested several improvements to our propulsion systems. John watched in awe as his children manipulated the advanced technology, their faces etched with concentration. He felt a surge of pride, quickly followed by a wave of apprehension. He knew that this display of ability would not go unnoticed by those who sought to harness the hybrid's potential for their own purposes. Sure enough, as news of Alexander and Luna's technological prowess spread, the tone of the summit shifted. General Hartman and a faction of human leaders began pushing for the creation of a specialized training program for hybrid children. These extraordinary individuals could become humanity's greatest asset, General Hartman argued during a heated debate session. Imagine the advancements we could make in space exploration, in defense, in pushing the boundaries of human achievement. John listened to the general's impassioned speech, his eyes hardened. He could see the allure of the proposal, but the thought of his children being turned into assets, their childhood sacrificed for the sake of progress, filled him with dread. Rising to speak, John addressed the assembly. While I understand the potential benefits of such a program, we must not forget that these are children we're talking about. They deserve the chance to grow, to learn, to be kids. We cannot exploit them for our own gain. As John spoke, he could feel Hydra's support through their empathic bond. Her presence gave him strength, reminding him of the personal stakes in this global debate. The summit seemed to be reaching a critical point when chaos erupted. Alarms blared throughout the conference center, and security personnel flooded the halls. Captain Steele's voice crackled over the intercom. "We have a security breach. All delegates please remain in the main hall." John's heart raced as he thought of Alexander and Luna. He pushed through the crowd, Hydrus close behind, making his way to the secure area where their children were being kept. As they approached, they saw a group of masked individuals fleeing the scene. Captain Steele and his team were in pursuit, but John's focus was solely on reaching his children. They burst into the room to find Alexander and Luna standing calmly in the center, surrounded by a shimmering energy field. Other hybrid children huddled behind them, protected by the mysterious barrier. "Mom, Dad," Alexander said, his voice steady despite the chaos around them. "We're okay. We stopped them." John and Hydra stared in amazement at the protective field their children had created. As the immediate danger passed and security regained control of the situation, the implications of what had just occurred began to sink in. Dr. Adams, who had arrived on the scene, approached the energy field cautiously. "Incredible," she murmured, her scientific curiosity overriding her shock. "They've manifested a completely new ability. This changes everything." As the summit reconvened to address the attack and its aftermath, John knew that the path forward had become even more complex. The hybrid children's evolving abilities, the threat from those who opposed human Tsinkethi integration, and the competing interests of various factions all combined to create a volatile situation. Looking at Alexander and Luna, their faces a mixture of innocence and otherworldly wisdom, John realized that the decisions made in the coming days would shape not just their future, but the future of two species and perhaps the entire course of human history. History. The revelation of the hybrid children's collective consciousness during the summit sent shockwaves through both human and Tsinkethi societies. As delegates debated the implications, John and Hydrus found themselves at the center of a storm, struggling to balance their roles as parents and diplomats. In the weeks following the summit, John and Hydrus engaged in countless late-night discussions, weighing their options for Alexander and Luna's future. The newly established Interspecies Academy, a joint human Tsinkethi initiative, offered a unique opportunity for hybrid children to develop their abilities in a controlled, supportive environment. "They need guidance, John," Hydra said, her skin rippling with a mix of concern and hope. "The Academy could provide that." John nodded, his eyes fixed on the twins as they slept. "I know, but are we ready to let them go?" After much deliberation, they made their decision. On a crisp autumn morning, John and Hydra stood on the launch pad, their hearts heavy as they prepared to say goodbye to their children. Alexander and Luna, now appearing to be young teenagers, faced their parents with a maturity beyond their years. "We'll make you proud," Alexander said, his voice steady despite the emotion in his eyes. Luna nodded in agreement. This is our chance to help bridge our two peoples. As the family embraced, John felt a surge of pride mixed with apprehension. He watched as his children boarded the shuttle that would take them to the orbiting academy, knowing that this moment marked a turning point not just for his family, but for human-Senkethi relations. The Interspecies Academy quickly became a beacon of hope and progress. Situated in a state-of-the-art space station orbiting Earth, it brought together the brightest minds from both species. Dr. Emily Adams led the human contingent, working alongside Senkethi scientists to unlock the full potential of the hybrid children. John received regular updates on the twins' progress, each report filling him with a mix of awe and trepidation. Alexander and Luna's abilities were developing at an astonishing rate, surpassing even the most optimistic projections. During a video call 6 months into their stay at the academy, Luna's eyes sparkled with excitement as she described their latest breakthrough. "Dad, we've managed to extend our collective consciousness to include more of the hybrid children. It's like a vast network of minds all working together." Alexander chimed in, his face serious. "We're learning to use it to solve complex problems. The Senkethi instructors say we're making leaps in quantum mechanics that would have taken their scientists decades to achieve." As the years passed, the academy flourished. The first class of hybrid children, led by Alexander and Luna, became a symbol of what could be achieved through cooperation between humans and Senkethi. Their collective consciousness grew stronger, becoming a powerful tool for fostering understanding between the two species. 5 years after the Academy's founding, John found himself once again at the center of a crisis. He was in his office at the United Earth Embassy when the alert came through. A massive asteroid, large enough to cause an extinction-level event, had been detected on a collision course with the solar system. John's comm unit buzzed incessantly as he coordinated with Earth's defense forces and Senkethi fleet commanders. The situation looked grim. Neither human nor Senkethi technology alone was capable of averting the impending disaster. In the midst of the chaos, a call came through from the Academy. Alexander and Luna's faces appeared on the screen, their expressions a mix of purpose and hope. "Dad," Alexander began, "we have a plan." Luna continued, "We can use our collective consciousness, amplified by Senkethi technology, to create a force field capable of deflecting the asteroid." John listened intently as his children outlined their daring proposal. It was risky, unprecedented, but it might be their only chance. He knew what he had to do. Within hours, a joint human-Senkethi task force was mobilized. A specially designed space station was quickly assembled and positioned in the asteroid's path. Thousands of hybrid children from the Academy volunteered for the mission, ready to put their abilities to the ultimate test. As the asteroid entered the solar system, John watched from mission control, his heart racing. Beside him, Hydra stood tall, her skin flickering with a complex array of colors, reflecting the tension in the room. On the main view screen, they could see Alexander and Luna leading the other hybrid children aboard the space station. The twins stood at the center of a vast array of Senkethi technology, their eyes closed in concentration as they initiated the collective link. The psychic amplifier roared to life, its energy readings spiking off the charts. A shimmering field of energy began to form in space, growing larger with each passing second. For 3 grueling days, the hybrid children maintained their mental link, pushing their abilities to the limit. John and Hydrus watched anxiously as their children led the effort to save both their ancestral homes. As the asteroid entered the outer reaches of the solar system, it collided with the energy field. At first, nothing seemed to happen. Then, almost imperceptibly, its trajectory began to shift. The control room erupted in a cacophony of shouts and cheers as the asteroid's path continued to alter. John felt Hydrus's hand grip his tightly as they watched the massive rock clear Earth's orbit, missing the planet by a narrow margin. In the aftermath of the averted crisis, John found himself once again addressing a joint assembly of human and Senkethi leaders. This time, however, the atmosphere was one of celebration and newfound respect. "Today marks the beginning of a new era," John proclaimed, his voice carrying across the assembly hall. an era of true cooperation between our peoples. As he spoke, John's gaze fell upon Alexander and Luna, standing proudly among their fellow Academy graduates. He knew that their journey, and that of both their peoples, was just getting started. In fact, it was just beginning.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.